I'm
All
back.
right, we are live. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Coffee and Compressed Air. Today, I have Nate. And Nate, I want to do a very quick introduction because people can go to your LinkedIn and you have 20 years experience in the industry and so many certifications. You just have a list of all of that. So I'm going to let you give a 2-second introduction because I have lots of questions that I want to hop into.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, guys. Like she said, my name is Nate Haley. 20th year would be this year, actually. June, I think, marks my 20th year in the industry. Yeah. No, it's this is something I love. I really love educating people when I can. So I work for Airpipe USA right now. That's where I'm at. So I love everything compressed air, including the piping system. One of the most important parts about it. So I had to work for the best, right? So check us out, Airpipe USA, if you guys need anything for your piping system. And today I think we're focused more on the compressed air side, right? Right, Danny?
Yeah, and just your experience because you have a good amount and you had a really good mix. So if you have a second, go to his page and just take a look at all the different things that Nate's been involved in. It's very, very interesting. Before we start talking about compressed air, I do have a random question for you.
Okay.
Because you have been in compressed air for so long, what did you want to be in grade school growing up?
Oh, geez, yeah. I mean, just so you know, too, my dad actually was in the industry my whole life. He was a service
Okay.
technician, a direct guy for a long time. So I've always kind of been around the industry. But yeah, you're right. I did not think when I was a kid I wanted to do air compressors, right? But I would say marine biology. That's really
Mm,
yeah, that was my thing. I was one of those weird, little animal kids. I loved marine biology and whales and dolphins and all that. So I really, and I'm talking like I got serious about it. I applied to a few schools and everything, and then just
okay.
kind of, to be honest, I don't know what happened with that switch. I think it was like a reality check. I'm like, man, I need money. I need something. I need this now. And I was 19, and my dad was obviously still working in the industry. And I'm like, can you give me a job anywhere? I mean, that's literally how it started. It wasn't because I had an interest in it. I just needed a
Yeah.
job, and I started as a service technician and just kind of, you just fall in love with it over time. Either it
Yeah.
clicks with you or it doesn't.
Mhm.
And this is one of those things that went from a job to a career really, really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. I almost never randomly meet somebody that says marine biology. I actually have a wildlife degree because
Oh, really?
yes, I wanted to save all the animals and be in the wilderness. And my dad, I don't know if you know the cartoon Wild Thornberries. He always called
Oh,
me
yeah.
Liza. And I had braces when I was there. So he's like, you're going to be talking to all the animals and doing this stuff. So I actually
That's
ran
awesome.
with it. And then, unlike you, but also like you, I was like, I need money. And although I want to save animals, it's not ideal for income.
Right, yeah. It's a little easier to make the money somewhere else and maybe just donate
Yeah,
some
and
to
then
the.
donate and, like, volunteer, but
Yeah,
yeah, I actually went through with it,
yeah, yeah.
so I did take some marine biology courses, so we could talk about that another time because I do wanna hop into
Awesome.
some compressed air stuff,
Okay.
just based on your experience, and you've been in this, I'm sure, hundreds of plants by now, when you walk into a plant, what is the first thing your eye goes to on the compressed air system?
Oh, your eyes go skyward. Yeah, I think it's really easy to see the compressed air people when you walk into a new facility of any kind. My eyes, at least, I mean, it's immediately skyward, right? You're following the piping system. You're like, as soon as you're in there, like he could be showing you the process, and you're listening to him, of course, because you want to know how he's using the air. But
Mhm.
while you're walking to that process, where are your eyes? You're not looking at the guy's back, right? You're following the airlines. You can't help it. I mean, you could be on vacation with your family touring a brewery or something, and while they're all looking at the magic, you're following the piping system because you want to know, like, do they have it looped? Where's it going? Where's it coming from? Are they using
Yeah,
aluminum pipe? Are they using black iron? What are they doing? And it's just, you can't help it, and it's not because you feel like you have to. It's just like your eyes are trained to do that. And
mhm,
it's like a curiosity thing. What are they already? You're
yeah.
already, like, you're already looking at what are they doing wrong? What are they doing right? So I
Yeah.
would say that's the answer to that, is just skyward. I'm always looking for the pipe.
Yeah, I think like I was the same way, but when I was going in, I was trying to find out where the air was going.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was on the end of the production line with a bunch of the work that I was doing. So I always wanted to follow it to say what's over there and like to help guide, the maintenance manager, the safety manager that I was walking with, like to let's go to where the compressor is being used. And that's obviously a telltale where it's going.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So that's perfect. So again, so now we're just walking into the plant. So before you start digging into the data, so you're not collecting things, doing, readings, anything like that. Is there like a tell that the system, like there's already something going wrong with it, or there's something that's in trouble before you even start digging further?
Yeah, there absolutely could be. Anyone who does like audits and they're going in there for that study, yeah, I mean, before you even have that data, you know, there's really, I would say there's two main things. You have like the compressor room side where you're hooking up your loggers and stuff, but you're listening, you're looking at the controllers. So
Mhm.
you may already see temperature issues or whatever. You may already hear them fighting each other. So you already know when you get your data, you're like, hey, I need to look at like what are they doing? Like what are these two machines already doing? They're both modulating, and it looks like they're fighting each other. And you just know that because you could hear it.
Mhm.
You can see it on the controller. So you already kind of are getting an idea of what you're going to be looking for in some of your data. I would say that's more maybe the more of the experience, like compressor
Mhm.
thing, but really even for someone inexperienced who's just going to put data loggers on, they don't know anything else. Like, hey, I'm just here to put these on. I still recommend talking to the operators. Like you don't want to be a nuisance, but while you're there, like following the lines, like I love talking to people because like these are the people that use it every day. They
Mhm.
may not know anything about compressed air. They may not even know that they know something about it. But when you ask them certain questions, like, hey man, sorry I'm in your way. I'm just kind of looking at this airline. I'm going to put a
Yeah.
transducer here. By the way, I'm like the compressed air guy. Do you have any like notes? I mean, you use this every day. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Some of these guys will tell you things that they don't even tell their managers. They're like, Nate, every morning when I come in, I'm sitting there getting all the water out of my line before I hook it to my machine or
Yeah.
whatever the case is. And
Mhm.
and it helps you because you already know, like, I already know 3 problems and I haven't even got my data loggers back yet.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, there's a lot of things you can kind of prep for when you walk in.
Mhm. Oh, that's so interesting. I love that because I spent 90% of my time with the operators, doing the handheld tools, for compressed air, and so safety was a big thing for me. So I absolutely love that, and they absolutely know, just like you said, they'll drop tidbits, things that,
Yeah.
their managers don't even know because they don't tell them. They're like, "Oh, I'm getting sprayed in the face with oil every time I blow this off." So I saw
Yeah.
some guy put a Gatorade cap, like he drilled a hole into it and used that to, I'm like, "What is this on here?" And he's
Oh
like,
my
"Well, it
gosh.
helps block
Yes.
some of the blowback." So this is a perfect segue into what are some of the most common things that you see operators doing just to keep tools or machines running?
Yeah, sorry, cut out there. Yeah, I would say exactly like your example with like the Gatorade lid. It's so funny. You'll see people do, and this is their job. So in their defense, they're like, I just got to make this dang thing run so I can get paid and make this product, right?
Yeah.
But you'll see all sorts of things like that, or you'll see, one of the most common ones that I see that it really, really gets to me is when you see people using, wide open airlines to like maybe they'll have like 1/4 inch copper tubing and they'll kind of bend it and shape it to maybe hit their process a certain way to help cool something down or to help like blow a part off or whatever, which is fine because they're doing the job, but they're doing it like they'll do it at full line pressure and stuff, and
Mhm.
because they don't understand the difference of like, man, you just need velocity, like you just need like a blower or something. You don't really need, high pressure. Like you're using pressure to compensate for something else, and you
Mhm.
see a lot of people doing stuff like that, or even worse, but similar, like, cracking valves because of moisture and stuff like that. They'll just walk around, they'll have things that they leave open intentionally. So I would say to sum up that answer, you see a lot of intentional leaks. These are all leaks, but they were created by them intentionally to help solve a problem that maybe could have been solved a different way without costing them so much money.
I've actually not heard the term intentional leaks before, but it makes sense. That's a very, very interesting perspective.
Yeah, yeah. And when you go in there with leak detection gear, like say you have ultrasonic gear or whatever, I mean that those would be screaming at you, right? I don't know if you ever wore that stuff and did a leak detection before, but you're going to hear that a mile away, and you're going to get up to it and be like, dude, what are you doing here? You know, you're at 120 pounds with the 1/4 inch line just open. And he's like, oh man, it's great. It cools it down. And I'm like, okay, well, there's way better ways to do that, you know? So, yeah, it is. I always call those intentional because they're well aware of it. They designed
Yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So along that same line, what are some of the most, and this might be one of them, some of the most temporary fixes that you see end up becoming permanent?
Oh man, I would say, well, honestly, compressors, adding compressors. People will have a new facility or whatever, and they'll have a decently designed compressor room, right? And it doesn't take long. In today's day and age, it's like, hey, we're adding another line, we're adding another process. You know, they've only been open like 6 months. It's crazy. And I get it. They need the air, they need it now, but they're like, I need like 200 CFM. I'm just going to buy this other 50 horsepower and put it next to my two 200s.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, that's a way fix because like let's just like if that's your new demand, let's redesign the whole thing, right? Or they're like, hey, in 6 months, I'm actually adding another machine or another line. And I know that's hard for them to juggle financially, but what happens is they'll start throwing compressors at these problems, at these additions or whatever, you know, or and similar, even if they don't add a process, maybe they just did their piping system wrong or they didn't loop it properly and they're experiencing pressure drops and they're thinking, I need more air. I need more air. So a temporary fix is they add more air, you know, they get a rental machine or they buy another little compressor and they stick it in that corner because like that's where they're having pressure issues. And what you end up with is a permanent fix that is like a hodgepodge of compressors across the plant, you know, different horsepowers and all sorts of stuff. And it becomes a control nightmare. So I would say that's really common, especially for the plants that do grow over time, you know, those kind of brands or whatever. So that's probably one of my biggest ones. It's a pet peeve. Yeah.
I actually wasn't expecting that to be the answer. I thought it was going to be them messing with the machines or doing something there.
Oh yeah. Well, unfortunately, there is a lot of answers for that one, but
yeah.
You know what? Okay, we'll say that, Danny. You brought up a really good point because that's one that people need to hear is cranking up the pressure. Absolutely. You know, people at the plant will try to overcome issues. Maybe that's a pressure drop, or maybe at a certain time a press or something runs, right? And they experience a dip. And instead of maybe redesigning their piping network or adding a tank or whatever they need to do, they'll just go in there and say, you know what, I'll just crank this thing up from 110 to 120. And now I never see that. Or when it happens, it doesn't hurt me anymore because of the pressure. But now you're running the whole shop at 10 PSI higher. You know, that's a lot of energy. So I would say that's one too. And then like actual compressed air people or technicians go in there and they're like, who's messing with my machines, man? You know, everyone's got these all cranked up. So no, that's a really good one, actually.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you see the pressure being increased just to solve all kinds of different problems.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's move on to the next one. What are the biggest mistakes that you see, like we already talked about, well-meaning teams make when they're trying to improve compressed air? So they think they're doing something to help and really doing the opposite.
I would say like, yeah. And you're saying like what kind of mistake do they mean, but they're actually trying to help?
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's the question. Yeah.
Well-meaning. So maybe they're trying to improve production or they're trying to improve energy costs, but in reality, it's doing something else.
So I wouldn't say in reality, my example here, I'm going to say it's not really that it's doing something else. It's the lack of like follow-up or maintaining it. So they'll get an initiative, right, to lower their carbon footprint. Or, hey, we want to do a leak study. And you're like, oh, okay, Mr. Customer. I've been asking you that for months or years. You know, I'm so happy that you want to do this, right? So you go in there, you do it, you find them, you tag them, you show them, and you have your presentation. Everyone's happy. Hey, maybe even they fix a couple of the low-hanging fruits, right? But the thing is like you can't just do that and call it a day and now you're good for 5 years. It's not how that works. You know, I mean, you have to stay on top of this stuff. It's the follow-up. It's no different. You know, they'll install, say, a control system or a sequencer. to help manage their compressed air system. Great idea, right? They're thinking ahead. They want to be energy efficient. They mean well. But the moment that thing is hanging on the wall, they train a guy, it's like it's forgot about the next day. They need to put like a champion or someone in place that's going to be the compressor guy for this, because we can't always be there, but with turnover and just with maintenance crews, I think having other things to do in the plant, these things are forgotten about. So like they meant well, but they just don't have any follow-up. And then in the end, it kind of didn't do anything. Give it a month and you're right back to where you were, but maybe just with some different problems. And you spent all that money for nothing, So that I would say that's my biggest thing is I wish there was a way for people just to keep that energy like all the time. Like always be on top of it. And there are some out there. I'm not trying to dog everybody here, but
right.
For the most part, I mean, people just don't. They get it done once and they move on, right? They're on to the next project.
Yeah, yeah, and like you mentioned, that's gonna vary among different sites and how many people they actually have working. So, because I've met some, their titles are insane. It's maintenance, facilities, and safety engineering, energy manager. And I'm like,
right.
How are you all?
Right.
How are you all?
Which one do you prioritize here? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, perfect, because I need to talk to all of you. But but also, are you okay? Because that's
right.
Oh my goodness. So if we take regardless of industry or plant size, what is one of the problems that you're seeing? You've been in this for 20 years. So year after year, is there something that no matter what industry or size that you just keep seeing?
Yeah, I would say for that one, one thing that I see a lot that is so frustrating. And again, it doesn't matter the industry or the size. It could be a 50 horse, it could be a 600 horse. But people, a lot of times they'll allow rebates, energy rebates and things like that to kind of dictate what they're buying for their system. And, and rebates are great. And I get it. Everyone wants help financially, right? But like, let's not put a VSD drive compressor like where it doesn't belong. Now you're just creating for your plant or more issues, right? Or worse, you just bought that machine, you're going to wreck that drive because you never really needed a VSD there to begin with. But it's so easy. And honestly, this affects the little guys sometimes more than the big dogs because they need that money. So they're like, man, but if I get this into VSD, I get this $50 horsepower rebate, and it's like I said, it doesn't even matter the industry you're in. Everyone does it and everyone's asking about it. And look, if you could angle that right and use those rebates right, some of these rebate companies have really good programs you could use, like some before or after data. But some of them are really just basics. Here's money per VSD, right? For VSD horsepower.
Yes.
And I've always hated that the moment it came out, years and years ago at this point. But because now you started seeing VSDs pop up everywhere where they don't belong, or they're running too low, or they're running too hard, and they're just not sized right. And again, you see that from 20 horsepower all the way up, and you see it everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. And now look, I live in the Midwest, and maybe, I'm in Kentucky, so I'm kind of like Midwest, kind of South, but there are a lot of rebate programs like this. And I know there are on the West Coast. I know the coasts all have these, maybe Central US doesn't see this problem as much or something, but I know around here it's a problem. You see it everywhere.
Yeah, that is very interesting because rebates, like you said, everybody wants to get something paid for, especially financially. But even I noticed in my 10 years that so many rebate programs, they often get undone because they don't take into consideration the actual production and the use of the compressed air. So it's actually kind of a big thing. And I think that's why a lot of people are skeptical, because there are some really, really good plans out there in rebates if they're done correctly. I've seen so many undone.
I wish, honestly, if they would just do like what you're talking about are the ones that are the good ones, are like the project rebates, right? Like, hey, how many like kWh can we lower at this plant?
Yes.
Like those are the ones I like, because you don't necessarily have to just use a VSD. Hell, maybe the solution isn't a compressor. Maybe the solution is the piping. The solution is, guys, if I finish this loop and make this an actual loop, You're not going to have the pressure drop issue. You're going to be able to run these machines at a lower pressure. You're going to save energy. And now you get a fat rebate, and literally you just had to add 2 sticks of pipe. So, I mean, those are the ones I love because those you could use properly. But the VSD ones, I wish they would just do away with those, to be honest.
Yeah. It's I always found it interesting.
They're nice when you do need one, though.
Yeah. I did find it interesting, since we're on the topic of rebates, that some, I don't know if you call them auditors, or we'll just say auditors. So don't shoot the messenger here. Let's say someone went in and said, I can get you this rebate, and they come in and they lower the pressure to get the kilowatt savings. So now you have the maintenance and the operators turning up the pressure in the plant to get it to work that way. And then someone comes in and just keeps lowering it and says, here's your kilowatt savings and here's your rebate. Thanks. Bye. And then they leave, and then everything gets undone. And then the rebate companies come back and do a follow-up, and they're like, now you're using more energy than before. Like, what happened?
Yeah. And I work with both. I work with some that don't ask a lot of questions, and you're like, I cannot believe they're getting rebates for this, But then I work with others where the people given the rebate are very thorough. They have engineers on it, and they're like, hey, I need all your data before you start the project. And then I need all your data after the project. And they dive in deep, especially if it's a big rebate. So there's some good ones out there. And and there are some other ones that just, they have their black and white and they just mail the checks, so it all depends, where you're at, I think, geographically.
I agree. So, and it depends, like you said, who's on the project and who's doing what. So we are at the 20-minute mark, but I have a couple quick questions that I still want to get to.
Okay, sure.
So what do plants wait way too long to fix when it comes to compressed air?
The compressor. I hate to be like cheeky about it, but honestly, anyone in the industry can vouch for me on this. 9 times out of 10, they wait too long to fix anything on the compressor, the compressed air system, because compressed air, it's a utility, right? But I feel like it doesn't get that same respect as maybe the other utilities do. Not intentional. It's just that people are out there to make a product, whatever that product is. And they don't really consider the fact that, hey, without that air, like, you're not making anything, right? No. They do the moment it goes down, right? And you're out there as a technician, and you're trying to fix it. And they're like, hey, son, I'm losing $100,000 an hour right here. What are we doing? And it's like, sounds like we should be buying a backup compressor is what it sounds like. But, again, not to be too cheeky, it's just that, I've lived that, as a technician. I've lived that as a sales guy. And it's like, if it's that important, man, you got to put safeties in place, have a backup. Or when we call you because we're like, hey, Mr. Customer, your service is due, don't be like, oh, well, we're way too busy for service. Can you come in at our lunch break on Sunday? And it's like, no, I can't do this in 30 minutes. It's a full service. I need at least a couple hours, And people just, they don't want to give it that time. So I know you said we had 20 minutes. I take so long on these questions, but that's what I'm passionate about. It's like, stay on top of it.
No, we can take as much time as we need. I just want, just so we're conscious of where we are, because we can keep going all day if you want. And people can come and go.
No, people would be bored. I could talk about this crap all day.
Oh my gosh. Hey, there's still a couple other compressor nerds out there still too.
Yes.
Okay. So we already covered that you've been certified, you've been in the field, technician, sales, kind of everything. So what cannot be learned in a classroom, no matter how good the training is?
I have to say, I've been trained by who I consider to be some of the best guys in the industry. I could list a handful of 4 or 5 of them that I just look up to these guys, and I was fortunate enough to get my certifications from them or just hands-on training from them. And I'm here to tell you, even learning from those kind of guys, you can't possibly learn it all, because every single system is different. I don't care if it's like Ford Plant 1 and Ford Plant 2, like, they're going to be different, but you can't help it. So it's impossible to teach people everything. And I would say more specifically, it's the senses, right? The longer you do this, the more, when you walk into a compressor room, use your sight, use your ears, use your smell even. I mean, how many compressor rooms do you walk into that if you never went there, you wouldn't have known. Like, there's an oil carryover issue. I could smell it the moment I walk in.
Oh,
Like, it's obviously it's coming out of a drain somewhere. Why do we have so much oil in this condensate? Just things like that. You just kind of over time, or like I said, sound is a big one, because even with your earplugs in and everything, and you're doing work, I mean, you'll hear a machine do something. You'll kind of stop and turn around, like, did that already unload? Like, what the heck, And so I would say it's your senses. It's just being around the equipment long enough, and you just kind of know what to hear, what to feel, what's hot, what's not, and you kind of get a picture of what's going on in that system before you even do the data, before you even look at the data.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So as we wrap up, if a plant asked you to change just one thing about how they approach compressed air, what advice would you give them?
Honestly, I'd probably go back to a little bit, one of the questions a little sooner, and I would say just make this a priority, a higher priority. At the very least, give it the same attention you would give your electricity and your water and your gas. Like, you just stay on top of it. If it's that important to you, you'll get the redundancy, get the service plan, like, take care of this stuff, because the moment it goes down, you get that rude awakening and that reminder of how important it actually was, and it should have never went down to begin with. And when I say down, I mean even routine maintenance, not just like a breakdown. So it's important just to give it the attention it deserves, and and I think you'll find that you could actually do a lot with it. When it comes to energy savings or heat recovery, like, there's a lot you could turn your compressed air system from something that's a pain in the butt to something you actually enjoy working with.
Oh, there you go. I can't ask anything else. That is a great, I think, ending point. At least for this episode. I feel like we could do a couple more on some different topics and do deep dives. But for this one, we'll go ahead and cut it there, because that is a great final note for anyone watching. And thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
And I think that was good. Everyone, how to find Nate, how to get a hold of him. If you have any specific questions, you can drop them in the comments or DM myself or Nate, and we can be available for any questions moving forward. And we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.